Let's talk a little bit about the process by which food gets to our dinner table. Uh, you have, we all know food grows in a field. There's a farmer, and then there's the last mile that brings us, the grain and the horticulture, the fruit and vegetables for our household use. At a high level, can we describe this? Can we try to understand this network of people and systems that brings us this food in India?
So I think that's very important because when we think of agriculture, sometimes we only think of a cultivator or a farmer or a fisher woman, and we think of them as uh, engaged in physical labor and involved in producing a commodity. But food production is, and the food value chain, or what is now even being called food system, is right from the production stage till the final retail stage, the consumer. And I would say when you start with production, in India today, with a few exceptions, I would say very, very few exceptions, there's a lot of inputs from outside farming, from the industrial or manufacturing sector or services sector that is going into production of food. How does the farmer get information about weather? From the meteorology department or the government extension service or through a telephone. So inputs into agriculture are from outside agriculture, and so this was in fact a very important issue to remember, that agriculture is not isolated. And then after and during the process of production, there's use of machinery, there's so many other inputs, and then there's what we call harvest, then immediate post-harvest. So once it is and I think that is where the post-harvest is where we have seen in the last, I would say, 40, 50 years of globally absolute transformation, because earlier people ate the produce quite close to what it was when it comes off the field. So your rice is milled or your tomatoes are packed, but that was it. You have a local miller, the rice miller or the wheat miller. You have a chakki in North India, which is, almost in every village or nearby town. But now you have huge amounts of processing and levels of processing, packaging, because food is also traveling more. So you have storage, you have transport. So these are very, very complex and sometimes very long chains. Food is packaged miles away and then is brought to India, or the other way around, or from North India to South India, and so on. So I think that this whole process of getting food, which is the first level of the commodity, whether it's milk or fish or rice, which is produced, then actually getting it to the consumer, getting it to your table or your plate, involves a lot of activities and a lot of persons. Some of them are rural, many of them are urban. You have truckers, people who are transporting it, cold storage operators, and so on. And then finally you may have somebody doing processing or semi-processing. And then finally you may have the shops and the markets and the supermarkets which are selling it. So if you take that chain, then you can see that many, many more people than we think of as farmers or agriculturists are actually involved in this whole food value chain.
Very interesting. If you take this value chain and try to understand it for an urban setting versus a rural setting, are we in the rural setting? Is there still some semblance of the old way of localized networks, or is that also been turned on its head?
I think it is still much more local, in the sense that you don't get the variety of produce in a rural area. So say in a village in Uttar Pradesh, where we spent some time about a year ago, you get Lay's chips and you get a few products of this kind which are being manufactured and packaged. But you don't see the variety of fruit or vegetable or millet or grain or cereal that you would see in a supermarket in Chennai or Bangalore. So it's not that there is no processed food, but it's very limited. The choices are limited. So it's much more locally grown and consumed, at least for the main cereals and staples.